All right, you know well by now the passing of Nancy Reagan at the age of 94, but if you think about it, imagine what she had to deal with, not only an assassination attempt on her husband just a couple of months into office, then his painful battle with Alzheimer's for the better part of 10 years before he passed away. So she dealt with that, and then a life after that, all on her own, all by her lonesome. Former Reagan advisor Charmaine Yost and former assistant to President Reagan, Frank Donatelli. You know, I think for people who have not dealt with a relative or friend who has had Alzheimer's, I think it is really the most painful of conditions to see a loved one literally, slowly forgetting you, forgetting your entire life. And what a life. I look back at that, Charmaine, and say, I don't know how she dealt with that.
Neil, I couldn't agree with you more. My grandmother died of Alzheimer's, and I have always thought of all the moments of leadership that Nancy Reagan provided this nation, the way that she went into that time of caring for President Reagan as he went into his final illness was just really one of the most inspiring things, and truly a subtle legacy that she leaves us in terms of showing the true dignity and the enduring nature of their partnership.
You know, maybe it was Luke Cannon's book, but don't hold me to it, Frank. It was the realization when she walked into a room, and I think she had said, and he didn't know who I was. I know we talk about first ladies, and we talk about being in the most powerful position in the world, but that is humbling, you know?
Absolutely, and it was a long time from the time that the president announced that he had the disease until he finally passed. Over 10 years
You're
that
right.
he was basically his primary caregiver. We had a small role at Young America's Foundation. One of the things that the Reagans needed was he needed 24-hour, round-the-clock skilled nursing care. And so that was the catalyst for her decision to sell the Reagan Ranch, Rancho del Cielo, which our foundation stepped up to purchase. And it was a win-win because it gave needed resources and help to Nancy. And at the same time, it put the ranch in very friendly hands so that it's now a lasting testament to him, and we use it to educate young people about President Reagan's conservative principles.
You know, Charmaine, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, allow the Washington Post to do that, because I don't think there's anything wrong with mentioning the controversies in an international player's life, and that was what Nancy Reagan was. But to do so quickly about her love of astrology, about her ruthlessness when it came to campaign aides and administration, cabinet officials, I don't remember the same glee taken with Jackie Kennedy Onassis when she had passed away, and her penchant for spending a good deal of money as well. I disparage neither, but I think that can come up later, and it didn't with her.
You know, it was really appalling that the Washington Post would lead with such a negative and really hateful kind of a piece. And the truth of the matter is, who amongst us is perfect? And when you live in the bubble that they lived in and in the public eye for as many, many years as they did, I think that it's important when someone dies to focus on their legacy. You know, there's plenty of things that I disagreed with Nancy Reagan on, for example, her stance on embryonic stem cell research.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you focus... Later in life, but this was a remarkable woman. She was indomitable. She was one half of one of the most remarkable partnerships in American political history. Together they changed the world, and so those are the kinds of things, that kind of legacy is what we should be focusing on in the days ahead. Look, I was a young woman in the Reagan administration, and she was an inspiration to me for a whole generation of young women growing up, looking at the partnership that the Reagans had together. That's what we should be talking about in these days.
And Frank, that's what we're not talking about. I mean, and I only mention, I say it's fair game when you have a little bit more time to go into all those controversies. I just noticed the unique zeal many in the media took to go to the negative up front with her.
Yeah, well, look, I would go on the offensive and say I think her political instincts were pretty good.
Absolutely.
She recognized Ronald Reagan's potential as an electoral candidate, first and foremost. She normally had pretty good instincts about the people that worked for him, and who was loyal and who was competent. And finally, one of the few times that she really got into policy, she was absolutely right that he should focus on engaging the Soviet Union and Mikhail Gorbachev in his second term.
And she also stood by him in '76 to carry on the fight. Yeah, go ahead.
She's a great example of a political wife and the kinds of things that women in the public eye have to endure. She was a lightning rod in terms of sucking some of the vitriol out of the air and grounding him and taking some of the heat in their political partnership. And you know, as her legacy is analyzed in the days ahead, I think that's an important part of who and what she was.
Of everything, all fair, all balanced. Guys, I want to thank you both. My condolences to both of you.
Thank you.
We'll have more after this.